Good evening, everybody, and welcome to tonight's event. I'm William Warriner with USC Arts in Action. Welcome, and thank you for joining us for Warrior Bards Veterans Exploring Ancient Drama. And although we wish we were all in person together tonight, we're still delighted to be sharing online space with you all and with our wonderful Warrior Bards team. So Arts in Action's mission is to plant seeds for positive social change by creating and supporting collaborative arts projects like this one that address major social issues, including homelessness, incarceration reform, mental health, racial justice, and systemic oppression, to name a few. And on the subject of challenging oppression, at USC, we believe it's important to open all of our events by acknowledging the Indigenous land that we share. Arts in Action acknowledges that the University of Southern California was built on the ancestral and sacred land of the Tongva Nation. We honor the Tongva and all Indigenous people, past, present, and future, and we pay respect to their continued survival and contributions to our society. Thank you. So, although tonight's event will begin with a series of creative pieces presented by the Warrior Bards participants, we do encourage you to be liberal with your use of the chat, which I can see is happening already. Make sure that you have it set to all panelists and attendees so that everyone can see the messages that you're writing. We love reading your thoughts and feedback throughout the event. Please, of course, keep that respectful. I know I don't need to say that, but please do be respectful with it. Also, following the veterans' performances, there will be not just performances, but sharings. There will be a discussion at the end of the event. And that is something you definitely do not want to miss. It will be compelling, I know. And to join in with that, please make use of the Q&A function at the bottom of your screen. So shift from using chat to the Q&A function that you should see at the bottom of your screen. And our moderator will do his best to include your question. And on the subject of our moderator, I'm thrilled to introduce Professor Greg Thalman, who will be guiding the discussion tonight, and who really is the genesis of Warrior Bards at USC. Until recently, Greg was Professor of Classics and Comparative Literature at USC's Dornsife College of Letters, Arts and Scientists, where his special interests were in Greek epic and drama. And I know that the Warrior Bards team have all been delighted to lure him out of retirement bliss to continue this particular project. Hello, Greg. I'm hoping he's now going to appear.
I am. Thank you, William, and welcome everyone to this presentation by Warrior Bards, which is a collaboration among the USC Department of Classics, the USC School of Dramatic Arts, the USC School of Cinematic Arts, and the 1887 Fund, and is now in its third year as a program for veterans. The program invites, as you probably know, invites veterans to read selected Greek tragedies from the 5th century BCE Athens. This year we read 4 plays: the Agamemnon by Aeschylus, 2 plays by Sophocles, Ajax and Philoctetes, and Euripides' Hecuba. The program consisted of several weeks of reading these plays, discussing them, especially from the point of view of how they spoke to the veterans' own experiences of military service. And then our participants were invited to create projects of their own that would be responses to one or more of these plays and would draw connections between their own experiences of military service and the ancient texts. These could consist of some sort of performance, a monologue, a short play, a video, a poem, an artwork, and you'll see examples of all of these tonight because this is what we're showing you tonight. You may ask, if you're not familiar with the program, well, why Greek tragedy produced in Athens in the 5th century BCE? 2,500 years ago. And we have, I think, a very good answer to that. For one thing, all male citizens who were sitting in the Athenian theater in the 5th century had fought in battle, and many would do so again, probably a few months after the performance of the plays. The same was true because Athens had a citizen army. The same was true of the people who wrote these plays and the actors, all of whom were male. And in the last third of the 5th century, Athens was engaged in a long struggle with Sparta and her allies, the so-called Peloponnesian War. And there was active warfare every year with a few gaps during those years between the spring and the late summer. They didn't fight all year round. These plays were produced in February, so during a lull in the fighting. So we might expect that these plays reflect the experience of combat and military service and what it was like to come home. And in addition, all the plays we read and many of the surviving Greek tragedies were set during or right after the Trojan War. So they do have a war subject or environment. Now this connection has been really beautifully and movingly borne out by our discussions of the plays, in which our veterans moved very seamlessly back and forth between the texts and what was going on in the plays themselves and their own experiences, and giving their responses very frankly and very candidly. All their experiences of service, and just as importantly, homecoming, and trying to fit back into civilian life. And I have to say that I think these veterans have seen things in the plays that scholars who study them, like me, have missed or have passed by too quickly. And they really bring these things out, I think. So the purposes of the program are to invite the veterans to reflect on their experiences and express their feelings creatively in ways that might speak to veterans in the audience. And secondly, and I think just as importantly, if there are non-veterans in the audience, to help those people understand just what these people have faced and what they are facing now as they try to reintegrate into civilian life. And there is a lot of incomprehension between people at home about veterans, and that tends to isolate these people. And the program is a modest attempt to help bridge that gap. So I want to thank our veterans for their enthusiasm and their wonderful ideas and their creativity. They've worked very hard in a short time on the presentations they'll produce tonight, which I think you'll find very good and very moving. And I want to thank also our student participants for their help in the discussions and their practical help in other ways. The program was funded, as I think William mentioned, by the Arts in Action program, and also produced by Visions and Voices. And I want to thank the USC Provost Office, and especially William himself, for all his indispensable help. So we'll have the presentations now, and then we'll ask both the veterans and the student participants, and then the faculty to introduce themselves to you. And then we'll go to discussion and Q&A. So I want to repeat what William said. If you have questions or comments or even responses, please type them into the Q&A. Don't do it into the chat. I may not see it there. And we'll try to get to as many as we possibly can. Before we start, though, I just want to put in a plug for the Ajax project by the Ensemble Student Theater LA, which consists of selected scenes from Sophocles' Ajax, each one followed by discussion by actors of their roles and their character and their own responses to the plays. 3 of our Warrior Bards from last year were in fact actors in this. It was live streamed last Wednesday on Veterans Day. It is now available online at est/losangeles.org, and I'll try to find some time to type that into the chat just so you have it. But I really recommend that too. It's very much in the same spirit as our own program. So let's go to the program itself and the various presentations. We'll start with a poem by Scott Hopkins called Separation, which will be performed by Gwyn Laree.
When you're on mute. Sorry.
I apologize. Thank you so much. Separation by Scott Hopkins. We wait. We get really good at waiting. Professional, you might say. Every day we wake up, get ready, and head to formation where we wait. 15 minutes prior to the 15 minutes prior to the 15 minutes prior has us standing by half of the day. And we wait, counting down the days until we get home. It's too fucking hot here. Our family's not here. We have no idea what we're doing here. Our people are not here. We have no idea why we're dying here. And we wait. To get out, there is tap and tamp, checklist after checklist. We turn in our gear and goodbye. 8 sheets are all we have to show for our sanity. And still, we wait. To feel normal again. For life to go back to the way it was before. But it doesn't. People suck. Work sucks. School sucks. Girls suck. We are weird. We are different. And everybody sees it. But nobody says it. And still, we wait. For the pain in our knees to stop. For our backs and shoulders not to ache. For the ringing in our ears to stop. For peace. For sleep to come. For their death not to cut so deep. We wait. To be remembered as more than killers, more than heroes, as humans. America gave up its poor sons and daughters, told them to put down their school books and pick up rifles. We answered your call. We fought your fight. But when we were done and we set down our rifles, you don't need us anymore. You turn your backs on us. Pay lip service to us. But still, we wait. As suicide claims us daily, as our wounds fester with disease, as we watch our lives crumble down and bury us, as we sleep on cold sidewalks and live in back alleys, as we cry in showers as depression traps us, as we isolate from a world we no longer recognize, we wait. We reach out our hand and wait for you to take it.
Thank you, Scott, and thank you, Gwen. That was incredibly moving. And now Gwen has a play herself called Hecuba Lives, which is performed by Gwen with Audrey Ortiz, Scott Hopkins, Patrick Ignacio, and Kim Estes.
Hecuba Lives by Gwen Lurie. Fade in. Act 1, Scene 1. Talthybius, in robe and tragedy mask, speaks to the camera.
O Zeus, what can I say? That you look upon mankind and care? Or do we, holding that the gods exist, deceive ourselves with unsubstantial lies while chance controls the world? Is this the queen of Troy once rich in gold? Is this the wife of Priam the Great? And now childless, old and enslaved, her home and city wrecked by war, she lies there on the ground, her wretched head fouled in the dust.
Act 1, Scene 2. Gwen raises her head from her prone position on the ground. She is tired but fierce, speaking to the camera, possibly in motorcycle vest, gloves, and jeans.
I am Hecuba, and none of the many tortures that the gods have laid down upon me have succeeded in changing who I am. Though I have discovered that Polymester was truthful in one aspect. I am a bitch. I have screamed and cursed and cried, my torment sounding like the dog that I am said to have become. But my ferocity began well before my grief. I fought for Troy. I sent my sons to her walls, and I argued strongly that the honor of our great people was worthy of any cost. I was wrong. As I stumbled through the rubble, my hands bound and my bare feet coated with the blood of my own citizens, I began to understand. As I gazed into the eyes of the women around me, knowing their loss, knowing their fate, reality reared its appalling head, and my humanity was its willing victim. Polizina, if only I had been allowed to join you on that altar. I have yearned for the release of death, but I will not dishonor your fearless sacrifice or the sacrifice of so many others with such an easy escape. I have survived the jagged remnants of my life for all of the women who cannot. And I will keep living it, no matter what animal they name me.
Act 2, Scene 1. Polymestor, in robe and tragedy mask, speaks to the camera. He is angry, outraged, and blood runs from the eyes of his mask.
Neither earth nor ocean produces a savage and a smart woman. Any man who has ever met one will know true.
Act 2, Scene 2. Gwen, now standing in the same wardrobe, continues her answer.
I was abandoned on that lonely shore, and I watched the ships sail away to Greece. I was free, with blood on my hands, hate in my heart, nothing to give, and no one to give it to. I raged and I screamed at the gods above. I toured through the countryside, finding food and shelter for my haggard body where I could. But there was none to be found for my tortured spirit. No matter where I roamed, the memories and the images haunted me. They tore me from sleep, growling in fear and agony, and no one but myself worthy of that loathing in the vicinity. It was the women of Thrace who tamed that mad beast. Small kindnesses, shared stories, difficult questions as we worked side by side that eventually I was able to answer. Slaves who spoke of children lost without hate or rage. Widows who still stood in witness to the beauty all around them. And young girls, brave enough to question this world that we live in. Those are the true heroes.
Act 3, Scene 1. Hecuba, in robe and tragedy mask, speaks to the camera.
clear actions of a man should speak louder than words. Good words should get their goodness from our lives. The evil that we do should show in speech and never make injustice sound attractive.
Act 3, Scene 2. Same as before, move into a medium close-up.
The clear actions of a woman may still be misinterpreted as barbaric, but my words now match my life. Only those who pursue injustice need fear for their eyes or the wrath of this bitch. My beloved Polizina, know that I continue this journey for you and all of those like you who suffered and gave everything needlessly. I will stand always in remembrance and honor. I am Hecuba.
Fade out. The end.
Thank you, Gwen, and all of you. We'll go now to Burger Day by Audrey Ortiz, a short performed by Hannah Lloyd, Marcia Mercado Carroll, Scott Hopkins, and Gwyn Laree. Music and sound by Jose Yanez.
Burger Day, a short story by Audrey DeFay. The mother stopped by the restaurant for Burger Day. It was her daughter's favorite. Her knowledge of English wasn't too close to masterful, but it was good enough.
1 burger, extra grilled onions and fries.
She practiced to herself. She stepped out of her car and noticed the signage on the front. Free Burger Day, in big bold letters, stars and stripes shining around it. Honoring our veterans this Memorial Day weekend.
1 burger, extra grilled.
She mumbled while opening the door. She was next in line. In front of her was a gentleman who wore a baseball cap with Vietnam on the front. He smelled like ass and spit as he coughed up the words.
Come on.
There was a palpable smell one could lean an elbow on. She scowled at the smell, while waiting patiently to be called up. The cashier was busy shaking her head. Something appeared to be going wrong.
Look here, I'm a goddamn veteran and I deserve to be treated well. I'm just here for my food and I'll be on my way,
the gentleman said. The cashier's gaze sunk back to the register, unable to make eye contact. The gentleman slammed his fist onto the counter.
Can you do one good thing for your countrywoman?
The cashier shook her head.
Sir, so sorry. I have to see proof of service.
The gentleman laughed.
Ha! Just give me my burger, all right? I went through hell and back enough. No need for proof.
The mother repeated to herself.
1 burger, grilled and fries.
Watching the gentleman lean in toward the register. The cashier looked back for the manager, who wasn't there. Like clockwork, she returned her gaze to the gentleman at the register.
Well?
The gentleman huffed. The mother walked over, having heard the whole exchange. She said,
Give me your salute.
Confused, the gentleman cocked his head sideways and looked askance.
Salute?
Yes, like you're saluting an officer.
The mother insisted.
You're veteran, right?
Nodding in agreement, the gentleman said,
Yep, I was there in Ho Chi Minh, right in the middle of that shit.
Yes, so show your salute.
The gentleman nodded more hesitantly and drew up his left hand and raised it with the palm facing outward. His feet were anchored at shoulder width, hardly at attention. She read his movements as though she read a textbook. A mismatched European charade was the only card he could play. Hardly a salute, barely a wave. She smiled at the cashier.
2 burgers, grilled onions, and 1 fries.
She paused to dog the gentleman,
I will get his, okay?
pointing at him with her lips.
Okay,
Said the cashier, who waved at the mother to listen closely.
but I think I can call the cops.
She whispered.
No, no need.
The mother insisted. Dumbfounded, the gentleman stood back, and even more confused, the cashier took the payment in exchange for the food. The mother walked out with the bag, the gentleman tailing behind her.
Hey, lady, what about mine?
Don't even dare.
The mother turned to the gentleman and held the burger outstretched.
Do not ever come back here on Burger Day. You're no veteran. War salute.
She scoffed. He nodded.
Well,
The mother drilled.
do you understand?
I'm sorry.
And
The pair stood in awkward silence.
I won't impersonate veterans.
He said.
and
I don't know you, crazy lady.
The mother stared him back down. The gentleman bent his neck toward the asphalt, apologetic.
Thank you for your burger, lady.
very good.
She said, and dropped the burger to let him catch it, his Vietnam hat spilling off his head. She drove off. The gentleman didn't bother to pick it back up. When she got home, she kicked off her sandals at the door, ceremoniously unwrapped the burger and fries and placed it on a plate. The mother lit a candle and served the meal in front of the stars and stripes alongside a picture of her daughter on the ofrenda. In between a wooden decoration of a giant spoon and fork, the photo captured a pinning ceremony where the daughter saluted her commanding officer. It was the day she was made captain. Her feet were sharply connected at the heels, and her hand was like a saber grazing the tip of her cap. A flag of a gold star hovered above her head. At her feet, the picture was inscribed, "The world should know of those who give so much for liberty." The mother smiled and beamed with pride before letting out a big sigh. She sat at the dining table alone.
Enough.
The mother said aloud.
My daughter, you won't believe what happened on Burger Day today.
Burger Day, a short story by Audrey DeFay.
Thank you, Audrey, and everybody else who was involved in that. We'll go now to Kenneth James. The title of his presentation is Incarnate, 2,500 years ago, a ruler, a king, a president, today Agamemnon, performed by Eli Choi, Scott Hopkins, Win Marie, Audrey DeFay, Scott Hopkins, oh, I said that, Kenneth James, and Kim Estes.
Incarnate, from 2,500 years ago, a ruler, a king, a president, Agamemnon, by Kenneth James. The following is a secretly recorded conversation that took place between the president of modern-day America and his best friend, a real multi-billionaire. Agamemnon, commander-in-chief of the Greeks during the Trojan War, returned triumphantly to his home country, Mycenae, only to meet his tragic demise carried out by his own wife. In modern era, Agamemnon returns to the world reincarnated in the body of the President of America.
Sorry, I didn't have it pulled up. I thought someone was gonna pull up the script for people to read. What if there's like blind people? I mean, like deaf people listening in.
I'll go ahead and read the ruler piece.
Okay.
Yeah, I said it. Not only in the locker room, I really mean I'm filthy rich. Billionaire?
You are filthy rich in debt, as usual. Lucky for you, you have all your followers who don't give a rat's ass about your corruption.
You are corrupt. But hey, dumbasses, as if I'm glad they see themselves in me. I'm very relatable.
Yeah, I'm glad we put you in office. You actually pulled it off with everyone in our party sleeping. You actually made us billions and billions of dollars, and we didn't have to do a thing. I love socialism.
Socialism?
You know what I mean. Tax cuts for the wealthy, this whole socialism thing. I'm definitely not talking about people coming together to make community businesses, which will put us out of business. Come on.
Oh, I see. You mean using the common people to make and keep you rich.
That too. They certainly are all pawns of the war.
War?
Yeah, you know, the war that we, the true rulers who put you in office, who created this opening for you so that the witless who mirror your characteristics of racism, corruption, and fear, etc. This is keeping the factions active so that nobody will come together in order to dismantle this wonderful welfare given to the wealthy. You know, all the money you gave us in the stimulus package.
Scene two. Fast forward to post rulership, a press conference. The ruler is in a constant flashback to the glorious ploy of using racism to get his agendas through with no opposition from his party and his cult, who are tied to him by their like character traits. Oh, and that was another glorious moment for me. Flashback. Yeah, man. The clearing of those peaceful protesters with violence, that was my greatest moment. All I had to do was hold up the Bible for my cult to see it was as justified. What losers.
I'm Tina Times with the New York Times. What did you just say? Nobody even asked you a question.
Agamemnon speaks as the current outgoing ruler of the free world. I was never a Christian, BC, nor will I ever be one.
As ruler of the free world, you have never once denounced racism, Agamemnon. Are you in bed with racism?
Timothy Tally Taker here with the Washington Post. Can you denounce racism, Mr. Trump? Oh, excuse me, Mr. Ruler. King Agamemnon.
You recall I told you before there are good people on both sides.
Heil dictator. Gina Great Gal here with MSNBC. Apparently, you side only with people who are racists. Is it because they don't question you just because you will stand against abortion for them? And is that why you can't denounce racists, Mr. Ruler?
Fake news. You, madam, are an idiot. Why I ought to grab you by the.
And 45. Can I call you 45? Now that it is apparently the end of your rule, do you mean you still can't denounce racism? America's most tolerated terrorists? Have they not been working for you since the campaign?
Young lady, you should watch your gross liberal mouth. Do you know that racists have been the Democratic Party? It is all over the media, on Facebook, on Twitter, where the real news is.
You're muted, Kenneth.
Kenneth James here with NBC. With all due respect, sir.
In the background, several reporters and his own aides and other Republicans are all saying quietly, he doesn't deserve any.
He doesn't deserve any.
Just
That man does not
respect.
deserve any. Does not
Respect, no
deserve any.
Not
way.
a single any.
We all know that America's most tolerated terrorists migrate to whatever party that will host them. It is just like a disease. It goes to any vulnerable or willing host. The host changed back in the 60s. You know, the difference between Nixon and Kennedy. Can you even just say racism is bad? I mean, the Proud Boys, is that who you really want to run with? Racist?
Proud Boys, I know you hear me. Stand down and stand by.
He just put them on standby?
The racist.
So racist. The most racist thing that I've ever heard.
So racist.
Back in the press conference, Ruler is being ousted by the White House, from the White House, crying like a child, missing mommy at the mall. They cheated! They cheated! I know I got more votes. Look for the illegal. Everybody is against me. Damn you, Kenneth James. Why did you have to let the truth prevail? The ruler gets hauled off in handcuffs, made to account for all of his treasonous acts, making him the only ruler, king, or president to commit treason. This is why Agamemnon was murdered. He betrayed the mother of his child. He betrayed a country by only catering to those like him, the warmongers, tax cheats, etc. Not okay for the president of the free world who thinks it's okay just to grab women by their, womanizers. In bed with racists and fond of stirring up violence, endeavors to destroy the legacy of the last president only because he is black, further catering to his racist cult. The end.
I seem to have lost my video, but oh, wait a minute. Here I am, I think. Anyway, thank you, Kenneth, and the whole cast of that play. Sorry, some of the difficulties of using Zoom came through here, but I think all of our veterans have done a wonderful job of not only coping with the problems of Zoom, but actually turning them to advantage. We'll go on now to a video by Andrew Orlin called Island of Security.
The Greek tragedy Philoctetes tells the story of the great warrior Philoctetes. He sets out to fight in the Trojan War, but along the way he wanders into a sacred grove and gets bitten by a snake. The wound becomes infected. The smell is offensive to his fellow Greeks, and his cries of pain keep them up at night. Instead of helping him, they just strand him on the uninhabited island of Lemnos. I deployed to Iraq in 2005 and was snake bit by a combination of bad leadership, mental health issues, and my own stupidity. After a blow-up with my CO, who wasn't really my commanding officer but loved to pretend like he was, I had a bit of a breakdown. Instead of helping me, my NCO just sent me back to Germany and tried to have me chaptered out. Everyone either turned their backs on me or stabbed me in mine. I left my term of service in 2010 and never looked back. In the play, Philoctetes had no choice. I did. And I chose to maroon myself on the desert island called the Night Shift. I went to work a solo security gig in Beverly Hills, way out in canyon country. It's just me and the coyotes that prowled the canyons at night. I marked time by the stars and knew them by name. It is not the sting of wrongs past, but what I must look for in wrongs to come, Philoctetes said. And I agreed. I was done with people after what had happened to me. They were the worst. They were scheming, they were untrustworthy. I wanted nothing to do with them. While stranded on the island, Trojan War went on without Philoctetes. And while working the night shift, life went on without me. Time came and went in my tiny shelter, and like Philoctetes, I did almost everything by myself. I rarely left my house. Hell, I rarely left my own bedroom. Lost touch with friends and loved ones and missed out on major events. The LA Kings 2 Stanley Cup wins, the Boston Marathon bombing. I'm not even sure I voted in the 2012 presidential election. Like Philoctetes, I became a kind of vaporous shadow, a mere wraith. I was alone, but I never had to worry about being let down again. Can't be betrayed by people if you never trust them to start with. I was happy. I'd found a little corner of the world I could call my own. 10 years after stranding Philoctetes on Lemnos, fellow Greek Neoptolemus arrives to persuade Philoctetes to rejoin the war. He refuses. Good reason. Feeling of betrayal and abandonment is too much for him to overcome. Even pleased to Philoctetes' sacred oath and his duty to his Greeks to stand by them, well, they fall on deaf ears. Frustrated, Neoptolemus calls out Philoctetes. He tells him, "Men that cling willfully to their suffering as you do, no man may forgive nor pity." That line from the play really stuck to me, because, well, that was me. I clung to my suffering, and I'd use it as an excuse to cut myself off from the world. I wrapped my sense of betrayal around me like a warm blanket. No Neoptolemus ever came for me. No Greeks ever arrived needing help to defeat an enemy. There were no grand schemes to win me back, or take me back to the world. A friend did question why I was still working that job, but I ignored him. And I worked that night shift for 3 long years. In the play, it takes the ghost of Hercules to finally persuade Philoctetes to leave the island and rejoin his fellow Greeks. It's a classic example of Deus Ex Machina. I had my own Deus Ex Machina. I got fired from that job. I had no choice but to leave my island and rejoin the world of the living. The wound is still there. The scar tissue never really heals, but with counseling and the help of friends, I've come back. Farewell, Lemnos, sea encircled. Blame me not, but send me on my way with a fair voyage to a better destiny.
Thank you, Andrew. That was very moving. Next, we'll have The Healer by Daniel Drake.
People speak of heroes such as Achilles or Ajax, great warriors who fought in the Battle of Troy and who are remembered throughout the ages. But there is one soldier who fought in this war that no one has spoken of. I will tell you his story. For years, he dedicated his mind and body to his country, his people, even the gods, to become the perfect warrior. When the time came to go to war, he was ready. Through the dark times that followed, after each time he clashed with an enemy, playing the game of death, the warrior's thoughts always drifted to her, the one who waited for him back home, the light to his darkness, the one who saw past the brutal killer and found a loving man. But the one thing the warrior was never trained for was how to come back from war. How does he return to normal after everything he has done? How does he sleep again? These were things he was not familiar with. And then he saw her beauty rivaling even Aphrodite herself, waiting for him on his doorstep. For a brief moment, he forgot everything he had experienced. He was home. The warrior walked in and threw down his armor to greet her, ready to embrace what had motivated him to survive, only to be greeted with a sharp knife that pierced his heart. He fell to his knees in shock. She looked at him in a way he never knew her to be, and then she set his house on fire, leaving him to burn as she ran away with her freedom. The warrior crawled out of the ashes. He fell onto his back and looked up at the sky. "Gods," he rasped, "help me." But there was no response. Not even the god of war, whom he had shed so much blood for, would help him. If the gods have abandoned me, declared the warrior, then it is time to take matters into my own hands. I will inflict every ounce of pain upon her that she has given me. I will watch the light leave her deceptive eyes. Then I will truly have peace. But he could not do this with any weapon. It had to be special, ceremonial. The warrior infiltrated the city and stole the sword of Hector, the blade that Ajax had used on himself. He journeyed across the land in search of his lover, willing to do whatever it took to find her. After much struggle, he found where she was staying, a glorious house full of food, riches, and even servants. He had never seen her so happy. His grip on Hector's blade tightened, his bones cracking from the pressure. Thunder rumbled as the sky turned dark and cloudy. The warrior barged in and cornered his lover, relishing in her fear of surprise and cries for help. He raised Hector's sword, ready to end her life, to finally have his vengeance, and to take back the life she had so harshly taken from him. He looked at his raised hand, still clenching Hector's sword, and realized what he was about to do. He snapped out of his daze and lowered his blade. The warrior stepped out of his lover's house and stumbled onto the shoreline a short distance away. He looked at Hector's sword and saw his own reflection staring back at him. What have I become? The warrior glanced at the wound his lover had given him. Journey, abandoned the disease that continued the vicious, endless cycle of war that seemed to always be moving no matter who won or who lost. Those who lost grew bitter and vengeful, while those who won relished in their enemy's suffering. He realized that it was not only on the battlefield, but home as well, a place he never thought would be affected. It is time to end this cycle, the warrior declared. He plunged Hector's sword into his wound and dug deeper into his heart, ready to kill the monster he had turned into. The blade suddenly became hot, causing him to lose his grip. It fell onto the sand. The wind blew around him. The tide from the ocean came forward to cool his sore feet, reminding the warrior of a simpler time before his first battle, a time where he had spent endless days sitting by the ocean, looking out at the empty horizon and wondering what was out there. The warrior moved into the ocean, each step sinking deeper and deeper until the water was up to his neck. A wave came forward and he dove under. He took a moment of silence, shutting out the sound of the crashing waves. After rising, he floated on his back and looked up at a clear blue sky, its color calming his senses. The warrior walked out of the water. He glanced at his wound again and was surprised to see that only a scar remained. Then something caught his eye, a body washed ashore. He sprinted over to it and saw me lying motionless. He checked my pulse and found it to be weak. He pumped my body full of oxygen, refusing to give up on me. I gasped for air and spat out water. I looked up and saw the warrior kneeling over me. "Are you all right?" he asked. "Who are you?" I responded. He seemed puzzled, as if he thought about my question for a long moment. "I was once a warrior, but now I do not know who I am." "Then I will call you Jason," I declared, "and I will tell your story." The warrior who had come back from war, who had almost lost himself to his darkness, became a healer and saved my life. For a great warrior not only knows when to draw their sword in battle, but when to show mercy, even against the enemy they hate most.
Thank you, Daniel. That was beautiful. Now we have a presentation by Janine Garcia and Kim Estes. Janine will be presenting her drawing, and Kim will read his poem, "My Hecuba, My Muse."
Thank you. It's just a charcoal sketch of Hecuba.
Hecuba, my muse, why do we see you? Is this a true dilemma of the aftermath of a battle? To see you as a slave when you are regal, as the word describes, to be as you are, to be the mother of a daughter wise beyond her years, to be torn as you find out she is to die needlessly, and to hear her make some sense of why she must go to another life. To be the mother of a son who trusted a dear friend of the family that would end up betraying that trust. And for you to have to even out that faction of life, as in an eye for an eye. Rest well, my scorned muse. Rest well.
Thank you, Janine, for that amazing drawing and that wonderful poem, Kim. Thank you for that. And finally, we'll have a poem again by Patrick Ignacio called A Warrior's Call to Courage After War, Hindsights for Ajax, with artwork by Kenneth James entitled My Hand, Your Hand, and a Helping Hand.
A warrior's call to courage after war. Hindsights for Ajax the Great, Trojan War Greek warrior. How do you see yourself? Don't let your wounds and fears and feeling stuck in this perpetual hell of the unknown take away your identity. Don't let it erase the truth that you're incredibly strong, resilient, tenacious, brave. Don't let a diagnosis replace who you are. You are not your diagnosis. You are not your wounds. You are not your loss. You are not unhealable. You are not beyond hope. You are a warrior. And this new life, this new you that you are becoming, this territory is not for the weak. It is for those who have the courage to allow themselves to feel weak. It is for those who have the courage to allow themselves to feel lost. It is for those who choose to believe that feeling weak and feeling lost are temporary conditions of the journey. They do not define your soul. It is for those who have the courage to grieve while giving themselves permission to feel alive. It is for those who have the courage to stay awake to fight the demons of hopelessness, uncertainty, fear, pain, misunderstanding, memories, guilt, anger, and the physical and spiritual changes that the war inflicts. It is for those who realize that accepting where you are now is the first step to healing. That when we stop resisting the fact that we are changed, we can change who we are. That the only thing we can ever control is our perspective, and that perspective is everything. Too often we see veterans only as wounded, damaged, broken, labeled by mental health and disability percentages. Too often we see veterans as condemned, as powerless to the toxic effects of war. And before we know it, veterans see themselves this way too. But is this who you are? It is not who you are. Have you ever stopped to think of the gifts war has blessed you with? Yes, I said gifts. And yes, I said blessed. Because as much as war takes away, it also gives. And as much as you have been changed by what seems to be negative, you have also been changed to change for the better. Stronger, more spiritually sensitive, aware, confident, perceptive, intuitive, knowledgeable about the preciousness of life, certain of what matters, able to lead not only a team, but a country. Decisive, ingenuitive, daring, bold, a believer in what is possible, a disbeliever in the impossible, a questionnaire of the status quo, a change maker, a guardian of peace. How can I say this when you suffer from TBI or PTSD or are beyond or burn beyond recognition? How can I say this when you see nothing but what's gone, what's been taken, what's left behind? Because I see you as more than what you've lost. I see you whole, not as your wounds, strong, powerful, resilient, brave, a warrior still. They never tell you when you head off to war that the greatest battle, the one that takes the most courage, isn't the adrenaline rush of combat, but the quiet confines of life back home. This is where the fiercest battle takes place, not against a human enemy, but against the enemy of war itself. You have to fight as hard now for your life as you did then, harder even, because you don't have the support of your brothers and sisters in arms to head out with you to meet wherever, whatever comes. You don't have the leader telling you how to spend your time. You don't have anyone but your own stubborn, tenacious thoughts to keep picking yourself up and saying yes to another day or night of battle you aren't sure you can even win. It isn't for lack of courage that you struggle, dear warrior. It is lack of connection, support, being in it together. And because the fight is freaking hard, you have a choice now, this moment, the next moment, tonight, tomorrow morning, tomorrow night. Fight for your soul's freedom or let war claim you as one of the living dead. Fight, my brother. Fight, my sister. Reclaim your warrior spirit. Do it for every one of your brothers and sisters who didn't live to have the chance to fight for their life after war. You can do this. Fight on. Thank you.
Thank you, Patrick. As I said, first time I heard this a week or so ago, those were lines Ajax should have heard. Things would have been different. Well, that concludes the presentations, and I want to thank all the veterans who created them and who acted parts in them, produced artwork, produced these wonderful poems, for everything they did. This was really a wonderful program. Before we go on to the Q&A and discussion, and please, again, people in the audience, if you have questions or comments or reactions, please type them into the Q&A so we can have them have some of our veterans address them. But before we do that, I'd like to ask everyone to introduce themselves so you know a little more about some of the people you've seen and some of the people you didn't get to see. And we'll start. So I need to go here. Start with Scott Hopkins. If you just introduce yourself, Scott.
Hi, hello everyone. Thank you for coming. I am a veteran of the United States Marine Corps. I was stationed at Camp Pendleton, California with the 1st Combat Engineer Battalion, 1st Marine Division, as a combat engineer. In October of 2009, after 4 years and 2 combat tours, I received an honorable discharge. Last winter, I went back to school full-time after 6.5 years. I'm currently finishing my undergraduate studies, and after that, I plan to attend law school. Thank you.
Thanks, Scott. Patrick? Patrick, would you introduce yourself?
Yes, good evening. My name is Patrick. I also did serve in the Marine Corps. I served during the First Gulf War And now as a veteran, I could say that my term of enlistment doesn't really expire. And I was actually inspired to write my piece from Sophocles' Ajax. Thank you.
Thanks. And Janine? Janine, would you introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Janine Garcia, and I was in the Navy for 4 years. I was a plane captain. We launched aircraft off an aircraft carrier, and currently I am a screenwriter here in LA.
Thank you. And Kim?
Hi, my name is Kim Estes, and I'm a graduate from the Merchant Marine Academy in Vallejo, California. I took my commission as an officer in the Naval Reserve upon graduation, and put my 5 years in, but also sailed 14 years as a chief engineer on oil tankers, and I'm a USC grad from the Marshall School.
Thank you. And Daniel?
Hey everyone, I'm Daniel Drake. I'm a Army veteran. I was in the Army for 3 years. I was infantry, did a tour in Iraq, and then last year I graduated from the New York Film Academy in producing. And then I was supposed to start out this year as a producer and a writer, and we all know how that turned out. So yeah, now I'm just kind of seeing what's going on, and yeah.
Thanks, Daniel. Kenneth?
Hello, everyone. I'm Kenneth James, United States Marine Corps Corporal, and I was on the USS Incheon for 1.5 years, and before that, I was in the Philippines with Bravo 18. And I really want to thank Eli Troy for the wonderful edits that he did, and Kim Estes, Scott Hopkins, Gwen Laree, Audrey Ortiz, and Andrew Orlin, especially everybody that really kind of just jumped in there. All right, thank you very much.
Thanks, Kenneth. And Audrey?
Hi, everyone. I'm Audrey Ortiz, and I definitely like to thank all of the USC staff and for everybody coming together and making this wonderful piece. I am a U.S. Army veteran, sergeant, U.S. Did a tour in Afghanistan as a military police officer and another in South Korea for psychological operations, currently working as a digital marketer.
Thank you. And Gwen?
Good evening. I'm Gwen Laree. I am another Marine in this crazy team. And thank you for bringing this team together. It has been amazing. I was a telephone switchboard repair tech in also Desert Storm, and now am working as a professional actress in Los Angeles, with home being just north of Vancouver, Washington. Hi, Gunny.
Thanks. And Eli?
Oh, my video is bugging. I cannot start my video because the host has stopped it. That's what it says. How you doing, guys? I'm Eli Choi. My legal name is Suho, S as in Sierra, U-H-O. It means guardian in Korean. I moved to America 8 years ago. I joined the Navy as a corpsman 3 years after I have moved. And I served the Navy as a Marine Corps corpsman for 5 years. Corpsman is a medic. And I now study mathematics, and I am so glad to be here. And thanks everyone who decided to squeeze out the time to show up here. Really appreciate it. Great way to spend a Friday night. Thank you.
Thanks, Eli. And Andrew?
Hello, everyone. Andrew Orlin. I was in the Army from 05 to 10. I was what they call public affairs, which is print journalism. I was a photojournalist. Living out here in LA right now. We got my MFA in screenwriting last year. And that's, yeah, I did my play based on Philoctetes, which was one that really spoke to me. This was the first time I'd ever really had any, I haven't had any experience with Greek drama. I was grateful to be a part of this. Thank you to everyone for showing up. Thank you.
Thanks. And Elena?
Hi, I'm Elena Kittlekamp, and I'm one of the student fellows. I'm a junior classics major with a playwriting minor, and I'm absolutely grateful to have been part of such a unique and powerful process. Thank you all for coming tonight.
And Rachel?
Hi, everybody. I'm also one of the student fellows. My name is Rachel Oswald. I'm a senior majoring in classics and minoring in public health. And this has been such an awesome team to be a part of. I'm grateful that I had the privilege to be here and work with all of you. And yeah, thank you.
Thank you. And Dylan?
Hi, everybody. My name is Dylan Howell. I'm a fourth year PhD in the Cinema and Media Studies program at USC. I'm part of the team as a fellow, and I'm doing a documentary film about this year's Warrior Bards gathering. So I'm here in that role as well.
Thank you. And Matthew, are you here?
I am, if I can find the mute button.
Oh,
my name is Matt Schumacher. I am a clinical psychologist by training. I did a decade in the Navy as an officer. I was a psychology and psychiatry professor, so I've spent most of my military career listening to these stories, although very rarely, quite so eloquently and emotionally moving. I got out a little over 2 years ago. About that time, I was in Mosul, if folks know where that is. And I now do some research at USC. A lot of it is focused on moral injury, which is extremely relevant to these stories, as well as doing some work for the Los Angeles Sheriff's Department as a national security psychologist.
Thank you. Have I missed anybody, student or veteran?
I think Ethan is here.
Oh, I didn't see his name. Okay, Ethan.
Hey, sorry, I did come late, but yeah, my name's Ethan. I'm a third year undergrad studying film production, and Dylan and I are, or I'm helping Dylan with the documentary, and so stay tuned to wait for that. But I just wanted to say, yeah, this has been such a wonderful experience. Thanks for letting me be a part of it, and thank you all for coming.
Thank you. So I'd also like to ask my colleagues to introduce themselves. First, perhaps Michael Bodie, who goes by the name Bodie.
Hi, everybody. I am Bodie. I'm a professor in the School of Cinematic Arts, the Division of Media Arts and Practice, and so happy to be a part of this.
And Paula?
Hi, everybody. I'm Paula Sismore. I'm a playwright and a playwriting professor at School of Dramatic Arts.
And Vincent?
Hi, I'm Vincent Faranga. I'm not a veteran, but I've been stationed at USC since 1973. And I have a great privilege to be a part of this project and to have colleagues like Greg and Lucas. And I am, in the last couple of years, trying to do research and understand how these tragedies of the Greeks were a form of therapy for those in the audience, both veterans and civilians who suffered from PTSD. So I am deeply committed and involved in understanding how tragedies help solve serious problems. Thank you.
Thank you. And Lucas?
Hello, everyone. Good evening. I'm Lucas Orkinroder. I teach in the Department of Classics, and I have to say that I am so honored and it's such a privilege to be part of this terrific program, and I'm glad to see it continuing.
Good. Well, thank you to all of you. I just want to say that it's been a wonderful privilege for me to work with such great colleagues and such wonderful veterans and students. I've really been bowled over by these performances tonight. So let's.
Hey, Greg, there's also Nate is here with us.
Nate, I didn't realize you were here. Hi, Nate. Could you introduce yourself? Sorry to skip you. If it weren't a cliche, I'd say last but not least, but I'd really mean it.
That's right. Yeah. So what a joy it's been to be on this ride from really the beginning, when we were the Warrior Chorus with Greg and I. It's been wonderful to watch it kind of morph over the years. Yeah, and this new iteration, I haven't been as involved as I wanted to be, but man, what a gift to see.
The guy who did have COVID.
Yeah, well, I did have COVID, so that took me out for a bit. That's right. But I think just watching, there's something powerful about these plays that really always resonates with me. That my role now is mostly in the veteran service space and grant making space, but something so powerful about the Greek experience that veterans hear their stories told 2,000 years ago, and I think that's what has resonated in this program and something that has resonated with me for a long time. So yeah, it's been an honor to be here.
Thanks, Nate. And once again, I'm sorry to have left you out the first round. I deserve that. So, to get things started in the discussion and Q&A, I'd like to ask Audrey just to talk a little bit about her own experience in the program, what it was like for her, what it meant for her to read Greek tragedy, and anything else you want to say about the whole enterprise.
Definitely. I certainly appreciate having the opportunity to revisit the classics. I know that maybe about 10 years ago, I was just like finishing up undergrad, and that's when I read the Oresteia for the first time. And in that moment, to me, Greek tragedy was just like watching Brad Pitt take an arrow to the ankle and fall down during the Battle of Troy. And war was glorious and it was exciting. And that's how it really was for me. But years later, when I deployed to Afghanistan, and I just remember the words of like a co-team leader of mine who had said that war is 99.99% like pure boredom, and there's that 0.001% pure terror and adrenaline. And I think the Greeks really tied together the mixture of like what is that pure boredom and cuts of that pure terror. And I think how that differs from modern culture today is that we just see the 1% and we don't see the aftermath of it. Reintegration, stolen valor, veteran homelessness, mental health. These are things that we all have to deal with. And I don't want to speak for all of us, but for me, when I was wished Happy Veterans Day just a few days ago, I think about like how the Greeks must have handled it, and it must have been just like breathing to them. It was just part of their culture. Nobody needed a Happy Warriors Day because for many of us, it was just something that we did. It's something in our blood and something we don't need thanks for. So the program Warrior Bards really awakened in me a whole myriad of different thought and soul searching that I hadn't occupied before. So I really, really appreciate my fellow Warrior Bards, especially the USC faculty and staff who really put this all together. And hi, Mom. Thank you for lending your voice. Everybody loved you. Okay. So yeah, those are my thoughts. I'm happy to kick it off.
Good, thank you. Anybody else, student or veteran in the program, want to talk a little bit about your experiences? Don't be shy, feel free to jump right in.
Okay. Yeah, I really want to thank my brother, Patrick Ignacio, for getting me in this thing, because, I just put it this way, he knows how to carry a wounded person through the fire. And yeah, Greek tragedies, like I'm not really fond on them, but I really liked going through them, especially with all my veteran family, meeting new veterans and all the staff and everybody that especially did my piece with me, man, that everybody jumped in because of all the technical difficulties. And that's what veterans are all about too, you know. I mean, it's leadership. Everybody, you know, pretty much has these leadership skills. And I mean, we talked a lot about PTSD, not mentioning PTSD and all the, you know, yeah. I mean, I just really relate, like Audrey just talked about, you know, homelessness and, you know, there's a lot of things that veterans go through. Including after, I mean, some of us, I think you could say were involved in a war after the military service. And that's certainly true of me. I'm trying to write a book about that. So yeah, I think everybody, you know, this was great practice for me, you know, like for writing my book and everything. So thank you, everybody. You know, much love to everybody. Peace.
Thank you, Patrick. No one has put a question in the Q&A. Again, you're welcome to. Anyone in the audience? Anyone else who from the Warrior Bards who would like to say a few words?
I found this experience really fascinating. I was discharged way back in 1994 and discovered the Marine Corps League as a place while I was going through my physical healing and figuring things out where people would understand my language and could understand that, yeah, sometimes I get loud. And I figured that was as good as civilian life would get. And as I got healthy and I came back into the world, and I figured out that, oh my God, I'm an activist and I'm a veteran and I'm a woman. And how do we do this? The last 6 weeks have been really kind of life-changing. And I don't want to minimalize that, because over the last 20 years, I identified as a disabled veteran. That's who I was. I was a disabled Marine. And in talking with Audrey and Patrick and Andrew and all of this sharing, it helped me reclaim that I am a Marine. And I can let go of that disabled. And more important than that, I am an intelligent Marine. What was absolutely mind-boggling, and my poor husband Mac is getting the brunt of this. Before we ever had our first meeting, I was reading the introduction to the books, and my vocabulary jumped probably 75%. Words I haven't used in 20 years came back into my conversation because I was reading them and I was thinking, and there were people that wanted to hear that. And I can't tell you what a gift that is. Marines are known for being dumb. Yeah, we eat crayons. I like the red ones. No, this proved so much to me, and thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Gwen. See, we do have a
question.
Hi. I'll jump in real quick.
Yeah, please do, Andrew.
One thing that I really liked about this program is it shows you that, well, it bears truth the fact that war has not really changed since it was fought with, you know, sticks to today. It's basically the same. It's just the way we wage it. And one thing that is kind of essential to human beings is that, especially, excuse me, when we're dealing with traumas, we try and seek out like-minded or people who have been through similar things. And it's interesting that you can find that in like a 1,000-year-old text. It really brings to light the universality of what the soldiers go through and what the thought process of the kings are and what the traumas are, because it's all still true today. Also, my favorite type of literature and TV and everything is sci-fi, like all the way, science fiction.
Thanks, Scott. There is a question here for Andrew from a friend of his, who says, as a writer, I'm curious, what genre of writing do you prefer and why? And then you get a choice, some choices: book, TV, movie, scripts, poetry, nonfiction, etc. So take it away.
First of all, thank you, Paul, for showing up here. Paul is a screenwriter and a novelist. She has a book coming out on the legacy of Vincent Chin. She worked on Defiance and Gossip Girls. She's a long time. She's been a friend for a while. I've bounced back and forth between scripts and fiction writing. My first love was fiction writing, but when I got into that, I weirdly didn't have the patience for it. So I got into screenwriting when after I got out of the Army. But now I'm kind of finding myself drifting back to fiction writing. I've kind of developed that patience over time so this kind of bounce back and forth between those two for me. Primarily a genre guy. Big into sci-fi. I get that from my mother. She loves science fiction, so that rubbed off on me. There's a universal, kind of like people saying, there's a universality to great science fiction and great genre work, and I have always been drawn to that.
Thanks, Andrew. We have another question, I think a general one for our Warrior Bards, from Natasha Nutkowitz. I hope I'm pronouncing her name right. Who says, hurts to hear that it can be a war after your service, coming back to society with the trauma and lack of support. What are some tips you all have for filmmakers and theater makers who want to help the homeless veterans through art without coming off as an offensive savior? Anyone want to take that question on? I think it's a great question.
I'll give it a shot. I think one of the most important things that you could do when you address veteran homelessness is to speak to some of those subjects that you wish to talk to and learn about. And I know you can put yourself in a very precarious situation if you happen to go out on the streets, and I'm not saying to do that necessarily, but there are some veterans who are connected and willing to speak about their experiences. And I know some of us here have been through rough times. And I think the easiest way that you can betray veterans is to just assume that you understand like the experiences and to know what we've been through without actually having lived them, or just having, you know, a secondary source and filtering that through your creative lens. I think that would do us a disservice. Be on the ground first and foremost and do your research. I think that's like the most genuine thing that you can do. And with those good intentions, you'll assuredly find the truth that you're looking for.
Thanks.
So to add on to that, there's a car right behind me. Some kind of magic background effect right there. That's a BMW. But anyway, what I was gonna say is, like, I don't know if you ever adopted a rescue dog. They're really hard to work with, and it takes time to tame them. It takes a long time to tame a rescue dog than a puppy. and just treat veterans like a rescue dog. You know, like most of us, like statistically, more than 2/3 of us are coming from a lower spectrum of the society. It wasn't easy just coming to the military already, and it only gets harder, and it just gets harder, and you get out of the military, it gets even harder. That's already 3 times, like, have you seen a rescue dog that was abandoned again? I don't know, just treat us like a rescue dog who was abandoned by an owner again for the 3rd time. And I don't know, like, I've never seen a dog like that. It's not like they can tell me, but if there is a dog like that, I will spend their entire life until they close their eyes to soothe them, to at least make them feel like they're taken care of, or at least they're not going to be abandoned again for the 4th time. 4 is a bad number. Bad number. And if you can do that, if you can treat us like a rescue dog, I think that's enough for me at least. And I'm pretty sure that's a lot of attention to give. And I know I'm asking a lot. So if you want to do it, do it. If you don't want to, it's all good. Get a puppy. That's fine.
Thanks. I think Rachel said she wanted to say something.
So I kind of wanted to comment on my experience with this program as a civilian and as a student. My grandpa was in the Air Force in World War II, and he died before I was born. So all I've heard is stories about his experiences growing up. And then pair that with my classics major that, I'm so sorry, one second. Pair that with my classics major and these tragedies that I've been reading in my classes, and they're just stories when you read them in class, and seeing how all of these amazing veterans have interacted with them through the course of this program, as well as hearing their stories and their reactions to these plays, has really brought them to life for me in a way that I never could have anticipated just in a classroom setting. And I'm so grateful for this experience. I know I said it before, but it has been really amazing being able to just hear all of you and be a part of this. I'm very happy for this experience.
Thank you, Rachel. And it's been absolutely wonderful to have you and your fellow students in the program too. I don't see any other questions. If no one else,
First of all, Greg, Ethan asked to say something as well. So Ethan, if you want to take a crack at something.
Oh, sorry, I didn't see that. Yeah.
I'll be super quick, but I just wanted to, and there is another question, so I will be quicker.
No, don't, take your time.
No, I just wanted to kind of piggyback off of Rachel. Growing up, I never knew anyone who was in the service. My family immigrated here, and I just didn't have much experience. But then coming to USC, I ended up doing a lot of commercial work for the US Army, and I ended up spending a month and a half at Fort Knox in Kentucky. And I think when I was there, I saw a very different side of the military than what I was expecting to, which is why I was so attracted to the Warrior Bards. And, again, huge thank you to Michael Bodie, who I had initially reached out to interested in this program. But I think coming here and meeting veterans and experiencing yet another aspect of what, the community is going through, and just meeting more people, I can't even begin to put into words how much of a privilege it has been to just sit here and listen every Monday, Wednesday. So thank you.
Thanks, Ethan. We have time for, I think, for one more question. Let's go with the one that says, what would be your ideal Greek plays that you'd especially love to do? I take it that do means act, put on, adapt. What would be your ideal? Any thoughts about that?
I think my ideal one would actually be Hecuba, because I think that deals with some very interesting topics, because it's not really told from. It's about war, but it's more about its aftermath and what it does to the people who are kind of on the sidelines and who are affected by it after the fact. There are probably some other people who focused on the play who can speak a little more to that, but I found that a very interesting aspect, that it was kind of more about the aftermath than the actual event and the people and the other people who were affected by it, because it's not just us. It's people back.
I'd love to do Ajax. I think that it would be really fun to explore like his kind of insanity, especially at the beginning. Like that scene's kind of very vivid when he comes out just covered in blood with a whip, and you know. But I would have to say Ajax.
Good. Anyone else? Well,
I would second Hecuba, and I love Scott's point that I would love to see Hecuba updated, and so we could expand even more than what I was able to do. That in my piece, I did so much research trying to find out what happened to Hecuba after. And everybody just said, oh, she turned into a dog. And now she's this island and they use her for navigation. And that seems way too simple for such a powerful character, and really speaks to, I'm going to say it, the misogyny of the time. And it's a misogyny that we still face. And I think Hecuba would be an awesome way to address that and bring it to more people's attention.
Yeah, just to add to that a little bit, that's what inspired me to do my charcoal drawing, and also Kim, who was so kind to lend his words, which he had just spoken up on Hecuba out of a speech, and it was so inspiring. But everything that Gwen said, I really wanted to, which I didn't end up doing, was to write something about Hecuba and kind of like incorporate, you know, all the loss of like this year, and Vanessa Gillian and you know, people who've lost veterans and veterans that were lost, yeah, I think Gwen's piece was wonderful, and you should continue it.
yeah, keep working on it, Gwen. I've been very gratified to see how the Hecuba especially really struck a chord with our group this year. It's always been one of my favorite plays, and I've never been able to put my finger on just why, but I think you all have helped me see why, and I'm grateful for that. Well, I think we're out of time. I want to thank everybody. I think thank our audience especially for tuning in, and for their responses on the chat, and also with questions. Certainly to our Warrior Bards, to our students, to my colleagues, thank you.